right, welcome back for another episode of Two Plain Sports. We've got another recruiting episode for you guys. There's a ton of moving parts going on right now. A lot of people are visiting this weekend, and we released one yesterday, and that was only the tip of the iceberg. There's a bunch more guys we're going to cover today. But before we get into it, we just want to say we really appreciate all the support. We've been growing like crazy. We've been seeing our Twitter growing like no other. If you hadn't already, go follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us on Spotify as well. If you don't like looking at Jose, I understand if you don't, because
I like looking
I
at
don't
Jose.
either. Oh, you like looking at Jose? All right. Well, never mind. I'll just move on from there. But anyway, if you hadn't already, definitely subscribe. You guys keep coming back, and we really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, and this is your third or fourth time here, come on, just help us out. It's free. It's no big deal. It means a lot to us. And definitely like the video and comment on, the few guys we're going to talk about today. So we got a few updates on Michael Trigg, Jackson Dart, Drew Sanders, Jahlil Florence, Kani Walker, CJ Coldon, Jeffery Johnson, and Mekhi, Wingo. Bunch of stuff, jam-packed. So we'll just jump right into it. Just a few notes, nothing really to discuss, but Michael Trigg and Jackson Dart are on campus right now. They're planning to go to TCU after. I don't know if they're leaving, Friday. I assume they're leaving Friday or Saturday morning to go down to TCU, and then they'll head to Ole Miss. Do you guys have any thoughts about them adding another stop on their visit, or on their their visits coming up? It's not just Ole Miss anymore. What do you guys think?
They're just exploring all their options. Probably explains why they had to do a little bit of a switcheroo on the order in which they were going to Ole Miss and in Oklahoma. Probably just makes sense for flights.
Yeah, I mean, you don't love it just because it's another team to compete against, obviously. But, no offense to TCU. I just don't think they're on the same level as us. And, anything coaching, skill player-wise, they're going to have a hell of a visit, in my opinion, to swing their decisions. I still think it comes down to OU versus Ole Miss.
Yeah, and I definitely agree, and I think probably part of the reason why they're getting a visit is because of their hiring of the new coach, Sonny Dykes, I believe his name is. SMU scored a ton of points with a couple former Sooners. Mordecai down there with Calcaterra. So that's probably why they're getting the stop. And, it's interesting because Chandler Morris is already there. But anyway, so another little tidbit is Drew Sanders is on campus now, or will be very soon if he isn't already. That visit's happening. It sounds like OU's pretty positive or feeling pretty good about their chances, which rightfully so. I mean, the kid was committed to him for like 18 months. I know Texas and Arkansas are looming as well. Whether he's visited or not there, I'm not sure. Do you guys have any thoughts about him being on campus right now, or maybe by tomorrow, or something around there?
We went in depth on him yesterday. I got everything I need to say out about him. Let's just hope he officially commits this weekend.
Yeah, I think we're going to see it quick. Obviously, classes start on Tuesday. I think I can speak for all of us. We feel pretty confident about where the Sooners sit, and hopefully very soon he will announce that he is transferring. Okay, so we'll get into a little bit more actual recruiting that we haven't talked about before, or at least not recently. So a guy named Jahlil Florence. He's a 6'2", 180-pound cornerback from San Diego. And he's in the 2022 class. He's a 4-star, number 202 overall and number 26 corner. We talked about him a couple videos ago. If you guys have been watching, he was originally, he was a late offer by the Sooners because the whole deal was he was committed to Oregon for a while. Cristobal left, he decommitted, and he opened his recruitment. OU came in with an offer, same with USC, I believe, and I think Florida as well. But a few schools offered. OU seemed to be in a really good spot. They were supposed to get a visit this weekend, or the following weekend, sorry. And instead, he is just visiting Miami this weekend, and he is shutting down his visits, according to his Twitter, because of personal reasons. I feel like Miami is in a great spot because obviously Cristobal's down there. Jose, do you have any thoughts about it seems like the Sooners have lost out on him?
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible. Hopefully those personal reasons weren't any sort of tragedy. Hopefully it's not, nothing bad. But if it is the case that he was so impressed, and it makes sense. He has a connection with Cristobal already, so it seems very likely that he'll be there, barring that personal reason wasn't something tragic that happened. Which, like I said, hopefully that wasn't the case. And if it is, then best of wishes, and hopefully everything's all right over there with his family. But yeah, I mean, Cristobal and him have a connection, so that's probably why he's going there.
He's clearly a Cristobal guy. He's going to Miami. We should move on. He's not going to be a Sooner, boys.
Oh yeah, no, I
get the people
I
what
agree.
they want. They're here for OU shit, not Miami Hurricanes garbage.
Yeah, I know, but it's involved the Sooners, and they were, he late cancel on his trip out here. So kind of a domino effect of him canceling his trip, assuming he doesn't, ever try to reschedule, is the Sooners offered a guy by the name of Kani Walker. He's a 6'1", 175-pound corner from Louisville. He's originally from Swanee, Georgia. He was a freshman last year for him, originally in the 2021 class, a 3-star, number 849 overall, number 69 cornerback. OU offered on the 12th, and he is visiting this weekend. And he maintained his red shirt last year, so he will have 4 years of eligibility whether he comes to Oklahoma or not. Brandon, do you have an opinion on him?
Yeah,
or anything?
Well, I think there's a theme, and these guys are going to be talking about pretty much every position. But for right now, since we're talking about a corner or a DB specifically, you just mentioned Jahlil Florence at 6'2", 180, 6'1", 180, whatever. And this kid coming in is 6'1", 175. And another corner we're going to talk about later is a similar frame, that 6'2", 180. It appears as if whether it's a Venables, Valai, Todd Bates, it's probably a combination of all of them, everybody on the defensive staff. It appears as if we're going to be trying to build that secondary a little bit different than we have in the past. Maybe instead of stars, we're looking at guys who are just freaky, talented, large individuals for the position. I think Key Lawrence is going to fit in really well because he's kind of a big dude. But yeah, it's exciting. The guy can run, he can move. He's tall and lanky, and that's the kind of corners and safeties that we're going to need to compete at the high level. Kind of like we talked about yesterday with the offensive linemen and defensive linemen. We want big boys, big, strong. It's the same thing on every level of the defense. So it's a theme that I think we're going to start seeing, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, the frame definitely is what's most impressive about this guy. The one concern I have about him is he, like you said, Brum, he did maintain his red shirt, and he has 4 whole years of eligibility left. So he was only a freshman last year at Louisville, and he's already transferring. I'm not sure what is motivating him to do it. And maybe I could have looked a little bit more into why he's transferring, but it's kind of concerning that he didn't really do much at Louisville and feels like he's already ready to move up at the collegiate level. And maybe he was just a guy that, big schools missed out on the first time around through recruitment. But I mean, I just, it's concerning because it seems like it's so easy to quit because a situation became hard, and coming to a bigger program, even Oklahoma, who maybe isn't known for having the best corners or best defensive backs, there's still talent that you're going to compete against. And if you don't end up starting, like, what's to say he's not going to just leave next year again and take a penalty for whatever school he goes to next. So that's my biggest concern. I don't, like I said, I couldn't find anything about his reasons why, and maybe I could have dug a little bit more, but I mean, his frame is very impressive. He's athletic, and definitely having longer guys like that is going to help, again, going up against bigger receivers, because that's something that our defensive backs last year were always struggling with, is once we came up against a 6'3", 6'4" receiver, they were getting toasted. Even if they kept up step by step, I mean, the other guy was big enough that they were just going over them. Yeah,
and you bring up a good point. Why is he leaving? And I don't know that exact answer, to be honest with you, but what I did read, and what some Louisville beat writers and what they thought he was good enough and showed enough potential that he was going to compete for a starting job next year. So I don't know if it's because he thought he might not have started, or maybe he thought, there's going to be a demand for my services, whether I get the offers when I enter the transfer portal or not. Well, I guess I'll find out, because most likely Louisville will take him back. And all of a sudden now a school like Oklahoma, and he's like, hey, I'm going to go at least go explore my options. But the fact that they thought he was good enough and would compete next year for a starting position, I mean, at the end of the day, Oklahoma is not one to judge about cornerback skill level, or, like, is he good enough to start for Oklahoma? I mean, if Valai and Venables and the few other guys that are involved think he's potentially good enough, that's enough for me.
Yeah, sounds like he's betting on himself, which you love that.
Yeah, for sure. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we move on to the next guy? No. So really the offer, obviously they need more depth, and remember that, this kid coming in it's kind of a domino effect ultimately from Latrell McCutcheon. I think they were going to take a corner regardless, but this is placed even a higher importance. And there's another corner that they're bringing in, a guy by the name of CJ Coldon. He's a 6'1", 175 cornerback, 175-pound quarterback from University of Wyoming. He's originally from Bellevue, Illinois, or Belleville, Illinois. He was in the 2017 class, 3-star. He was number 1,726 overall, and he was a wide receiver in high school. He was recruited as a cornerback. In 2021, he had 48 tackles and 10 pass breakups. So he plays some good bump and run coverage. He's visiting the Sooners this weekend, and I mean, the fact that he had that many tackles, he started, he's going to have 1 year of eligibility left. This is a guy that they think that they can, develop a little bit and plug him right in, or at least get a great rotational depth piece. I'm not saying he's going to be a starter, but someone that's played a ton of football. Brandon, what do you think about him?
Well, having 48 tackles as a corner isn't always a good thing. Let's hope he wasn't giving up catch after catch, and that's why he's right there to make the tackle right away and kind of, pad to those stats. But the 10 pass breakups is very encouraging to see. And again, he kind of fits that theme of being tall, lanky, big, and very athletic. As you mentioned, he's as a two-way player playing receiver in high school. Again, it's like we're beating a dead horse, but I mean, I think I speak for all of us when I say, like, if Venables and Valai, or pretty much Venables specifically, and if Venables sees something in Valai, and Valai sees something in this kid, we're gonna trust the process, as Joel Embiid likes to talk about, because I truly think that Brent Venables is a very good defensive mind, and he's gonna develop these kids into where he wants them to be. So I mean, I trust it. Let's roll.
Yeah, I think CJ is better than the guy from Louisville we just talked about. Kani Walker, thank you. He's a lot more aggressive when he's playing the ball. I think that's why he had so many pass breakups. I watched a quick highlight of one of their games from last season, and he is very aggressive when attacking, when he's like trying to high point the ball and attacking at the point of the catch. So I don't think he's giving up a ton of yards. It's not a pat stat, like a padded stat like Brandon was just talking about. I mean, probably a few of them, but he's just always trying to go after the ball. He's kind of a ball hawk in a way. He might not be getting a lot of interceptions. I think he only finished with one last year, maybe not even any. But he's definitely always, when the ball is in the air, he's going to fight for it. And I think that's something that's important for this new culture of the defense. Kind of very, very tough minded, willing to make a play when it's needed, and making sure you don't miss a tackle. So 44 tackles doesn't sound that bad to me, because I know he's not going to miss it in the open field.
Yeah, I mean, if he can make open field tackles, that's already better than what we've got. I mean, I'm not saying that everyone couldn't make open field tackles, but I think the last 5 years we've seen our fair share of missed tackles. Do you guys have anything to add before we move on to the defensive line? All right, so one of our favorite positions. Yeah, I was going to say probably one of my favorite position groups in the whole, all of football is the defensive line. So Jeffery Johnson, he is a 6'3", 295-pound nose tackle from Tulane. He's originally from Brookhaven, Mississippi. In his career, he's played at Tulane for 4 years. He had 9 sacks, 64 tackles overall in his career. Obviously, he's got 1 year of eligibility left because he didn't take a red shirt at any point. And he's getting that extra COVID year. So, it was funny because, man, if some of you guys have been here for a very long time, we did a preview of the OU Tulane game. And I actually remember, I haven't gone back and watched, but I vividly remember talking about that defensive line for Tulane. And I think we actually mentioned Jeffery Johnson. Like, this is going to be a problem. He's a nose tackle going against, Raymer Congo, and they're going to struggle because this is their first start for Oklahoma.
I think he had like 6 tackles against OU and 1 for loss or 2 for loss. He probably had his best game of the season against Oklahoma last year.
Yeah, I felt like he was always in the backfield, or at least in Spencer Rattler's space. He was all over the place. I'm not saying that he's the best, but he could come in and definitely compete for Perion Winfrey's position that he's leaving open. Jose, what do you think?
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. Coach B is very familiar with Jeffery from last year's game, giving the entire offensive line issues, especially those young guys in the middle. And that's probably why we're so interested in him. And then with Todd Bates being there now to coach the defensive line, I mean, the expectation is he's going to be better. And going up against the other offensive lines in the Big 12, I would be super excited to get him to fill in that spot that Perion is leaving open, because I'm assuming we're still going to have at least a 3-man rotation, if not a 4-man rotation, and with the big boys in the middle. Which, having a guy like that, if he's not a starter, at least for depth, just to give the starters a breather, not a bad guy to have behind him.
Yeah. See, I think he absolutely has the potential to start. But even if not, I think just having that, the more the merrier as far as the defensive line goes. So you want them fresh. You want, the big bodies ready to go at all times. I think he has the ability to start, and I do. That's dependent on Jackson Player, that Tulsa kid who's still in the portal. We're in his top 5. I think if Jackson Player comes to OU, he's going to be inserted into that starting lineup right next to Jalen Redmond. And then this guy would just be, a third down guy or every other drive or something. But yeah, the more the merrier. Bring all the defensive line to Norman. This kid's talented. He obviously had a pretty good day against Oklahoma. Let's have him do that for Oklahoma now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick, that position's kind of important to have extra depth, because Redmond has had an injury history. And it's not like we wish that on him, but if it happens again, we're going to need someone to fill in his spot. So if it's Player or this guy, we need at least 2 or 3 guys to be able to back them up.
Both.
That's I 100% agree. And I don't know if I said it in the very beginning, but he actually was on campus today as we're recording it, which is Thursday evening. So he has already been on campus. I don't know if he's staying, he might be there tomorrow, as in Friday, the 14th. Really the only other school that I know of off the top of my head that's interested is Michigan, but big schools are going to be calling for him, Oklahoma, Michigan. I'm sure there's a few more. I don't know if he's planning to visit. He might commit here pretty quick. I like OU's chances. The fact that he came on campus as fast as he did, he recently just entered in the portal, I think, just a few days ago. It's just the same thing as Kani Walker.
Todd Bates moving quick.
Yeah, I mean, they're hitting the ground running right now. Do you guys have anything to add before we move on to our last guy?
Really like our chances with him, with Todd Bates being his recruiter.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess this is also, we're seeing the Todd Bates effect and the Jay Valai effect already. Valai's going to work as well, being, on staff for 2 days now or whatever. So the last guy is Mekhi Wingo, which honestly, I think this is probably the most excited we are about any of these guys. He's a 6'1", 275-pound defensive lineman from Missouri. He was in the 2021 class. He's a 3-star, number 615 overall, and number 74 defensive lineman. Again, the whole stars. Right? No, he's a defensive lineman. Right?
Oh yeah. You're right.
Yeah. So, and this is a classic case of stars don't mean everything when you get on campus. I mean, this kid was an all SEC freshman. He played in all 11 games, started 3 of them. He's originally from St. Louis, Missouri, so he's not far from Norman. Last year, he had 14 solo tackles, 1 sack, and 1 interception, and he appeared in every game. He has some visits lined up. He's currently at LSU right now. He is coming to Oklahoma Friday and Saturday, and then he will be at USC on Sunday and Monday, our buddies. So, big time schools are calling him. He's a freshman. He's going to have 3 years of eligibility left. Brandon, what would you like to say about him?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting times in that defensive line room. I don't know what Todd Bates puts in the water. I don't know what he's on, but I love it. It's, as you mentioned, SEC freshman, whatever. He's good. He's good. He's big. He's, if nothing else, more depth in our favorite position on the field, that defensive line area. Load up both sides of the trenches, and that's how the Sooners are going to win big games against the big teams we're about to play against. Again, this is something that we'll be following real close on Friday and Saturday as the day progresses. Follow us on Twitter for all the updates. But, I mean, this is a kid that we should all want, and as you mentioned, the kid we're most excited about.
Yeah, and he's proven success already in the SEC. Again, to reiterate his accomplishment from last season being an all SEC freshman team. I mean, that's impressive. It's not easy to succeed at the defensive line position in the SEC with the big men that you have to play against on the offensive line. So he clearly a guy that people just missed in the initial recruiting cycle out of high school because, again, like Brum said, the stars, some coaches really are just kind of focused on the stars and kind of miss sometimes. And it happens all the time. And now this kid had a great freshman season and he's able to kind of upgrade in programs. Wherever he ends up going, it's going to be a bigger school, a bigger name, and probably a school that's going to be in position to compete for conference championships and maybe even national championships, just depending on where he's going. I think, again, Oklahoma having a really good chance with him, not just because of Bates, but given the fact that he originally went to an SEC school, he is near Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's moving to the SEC. I think we've got a really good shot at making sure he stays in the area of the country.
Yeah, and we're competing against LSU. Our former defensive line coach, Jamar Kane, defensive end coach Jamar Kane, he's going to, have a great case. He's going to be a guy that we're going to be competing against often, against great, for great players. I just to kind of summarize this all, it's kind of funny. We talked about 8 guys, briefly, a few in the very beginning, but 7 out of the 8 guys we talked about, whether it was Dart, Trigg, Coldon, Johnson, Wingo, name it, 7 out of 8 are transfers. Remember when we were worried about Brent Venables not taking transfers? And like this video and the previous one, we've been talking mostly transfers. It's interesting how we freaked out, or maybe not we really, but a lot of people were concerned, like, oh, he's not going to take any transfers. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And look at this. We got 7 guys that we talked about today that are transfers. I think that's just speaks to what they're trying to do with this team.
I think it also speaks. It talks about like the transition that Venables is having to make, because he's coming from Clemson, where Dabo is super against NIL, super against the transfer portal, because he's kind of an old school guy like that, and that's fine. And so Venables came in with that mentality of adopting it from Dabo, and now as the head man at Oklahoma, that's all fine and well. But you need the transfer portal in some cases, especially when we have so many guys going into the NFL. And I know if you listen to national pundits, you hear about how Oklahoma is losing all these guys to the transfer portal, but we haven't really lost that many, not an abnormal amount. Like if you go to other schools, some schools have lost as many as 18 or 20 people to the transfer portal. I think Oklahoma's at less than 10. It might be at 8. And 2 of them came back. So you just need to refill with experienced talent. It's kind of, in some way, it's unfortunate because now it's taking away opportunity from guys from JUCO, which I think those guys are awesome because, as I've said a lot, you don't play at the JUCO level unless you love football. So,
or you're dumb. I mean,
well, you made
struggle out of high school, yeah.
But either way, but again, what I mean is like you're not going to just, if you're playing in JUCO, you're trying to get to the next level. Like you're not just playing in JUCO to play in JUCO is what I mean. So I think it's unfortunate for those guys, but for schools, for big programs like Oklahoma and Alabama and, all the other big programs we can name, it gives them a little bit more of a, how are they going to perform at the level that we need, rather than having to take a shot at someone that's coming from a JUCO program.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brandon, do you have anything to add on that point?
No, I think Jose hit it pretty good.
Yeah. And I mean, one last thing, and I do agree with you, Jose. I think it's the transition. Also, the philosophy of Lincoln Riley and them, they never took large classes relative to like other programs. A lot of times they were around that 17 to 23 guys. I mean, you look at Texas and Texas A&M, they're pushing 30. So this roster might be a little bit more thin than Venables likes. And this might be a quick way to add that depth. And, if a guy's not performing, they've got a guy right behind him. And I think that's part of the issue that Riley and his staff they were running into, is they didn't have enough good depth behind. And I think Venables is going to try to change that, because every top program does that.
Competition is always good at every position on the field.
Yeah, for sure. So do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap this one up? No?
I'm actually going to defer the end of video challenge to Jose today, because he brought up a good point in our pre-recording show, and I'm gonna give you the credit for it, Jose, so you can you bring it home tonight.
All right. Well, thanks, Brandon. Yeah, so we were talking about it before the show, and we were all really curious how everyone's found us so far that has subscribers just watching, because our Twitter's growing, incrementally. I think we're almost at 1,000 subscribers, or not subscribers, sorry, followers. Probably like 30 away or somewhere in that range. So if you haven't already, go follow us on Twitter, get us to 1,000. We'd love that. But go down in the comment section, let us know how you found us. Did you find a post on Facebook, Twitter? Did it just come up on a search on YouTube? We'd love to know. Give us a lot of insight too on how we can continue growing this thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. We're really interested to see. It's going to be, I mean, I bet we'll find out some crazy ways that people found us. And, you guys sticking through this video, we really appreciate it if you made it this far. I mean,
you guys can also comment why I'm your favorite of the three hosts.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm everybody's favorite.
Yeah, exactly. So you hadn't already, definitely subscribe, like our video. It helps us a lot. It pushes our video out when you like it. It, gets a wider audience and gets more of, fans of Oklahoma in here to talk more. And we just want to continue to grow. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at 2Plane Sports. If you don't like looking at Brandon, because you have to listen to him anyway, but if you don't like looking at him, go on to Spotify. It's at 2Plane Sports. We've noticed that's been growing as well, and we really appreciate it. And we assume that's mostly from here, and we're going to keep posting, and we want to keep growing that one. But we really appreciate it, and we'll catch you in the next one. There's going to be a ton of stuff coming out, and turn on that notification bell. Appreciate it.